All right, here we go. Fuel injection systems. The moment we've been waiting for. All right, so there's some reading to do. It's in Canvas. Are you guys, you can be honest, it's okay. Are you reading that aircraft fuel metering systems book? Because it's really good.
The old one?
Yeah, the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Let's see, and there's the movie. There's a I don't know 1 or 2 hour video, and I've put sections of it in there for you to watch. That one's pretty good.
The World War II one?
No,
The World War II one is very different. The one from like I think 79 or something.
it's in color.
Wow. Yes, I know. It's
Okay.
It's like colored pencil.
Maybe. Yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time, but in order to transfer that from a VHS to digital, I actually had to set up a camera in front of a TV and play it. I couldn't find it. It couldn't get to work anyway. It's not copyright. All right, here we go. So there's that. Does this work? All right, here is a picture of the inside of an airplane. This is also a picture of the inside of an airplane. And for some reason, I put these in here, which at this point in time, I do not know. So what is the difference between this one and this one?
There's no blue knob in this one.
There you go. This one has a
Constant speed.
constant speed prop. That one does not. All right, fuel injection systems. Here we go. We're going to talk about the Bendix fuel injection system first, and we'll move on to TCM. They are both completely different. I mean, they couldn't be more different than two things on this planet. So here we go. Let's see. All right. Fuel injection. Fuel injection. What are some benefits? Why fuel injection?
Even distribution of fuel.
So this says go to slide 1. I don't know. No vapor icing. I like icing. I just had a cupcake with some icing on it. Why no vapor icing? Yeah, so the way our fuel injection systems work, maybe that's a good way to start it, is fuel is going to come into the fuel servo on this particular system, which is, it's going to look a lot like a carburetor sitting on the engine where a carburetor would go, but all it has is air coming through it. And so that air, it's going to measure the air coming through it and then run the servo, and it's going to send fuel around to the top of the engine through a manifold, which will have either 4 or 6 ports for fuel. The fuel is going to go out each line and go to the top of the cylinder and spray right there at the top of the cylinder, or bottom of the cylinder, depending on the style, but mostly the top. So you don't have any fuel going through mixing with the air down near the carburetor, which is not a carburetor. So we have no vapor icing. And because you're delivering, you can control the fuel to each independent cylinder, that's going to mean uniform delivery of fuel to each cylinder. Although some would argue that out of the factory it doesn't. That's where GAMI comes in place, and the aftermarket fuel injector company who will give you nozzles that will flow match to each cylinder. So with all of that, because we have now a uniform delivery of fuel to each cylinder, unlike my airplane, which is like, good luck to you, then now you have improved control over the fuel air mix, which is going to allow you to run lean of peak if you want, without the engine getting all rough. I have easier maintenance here. I'm not sure about that.
Well, maybe because everything's uniform, so you don't have to.
It just depends, I guess, on what your definition of ease is. This is out of a book here, so I don't know. I can agree with A, B, and C. The book had easier maintenance. Okay, sure. Better acceleration. I did not know that acceleration was a problem. And increased engine efficiency. I can certainly agree with that. Okay, so your question is, with the fuel injection, do you have to be as careful? You have to be 10 times more careful when starting this, because you will absolutely flood the engine so easy. It's way, way easier. With a pressure carb, especially an updraft or something down low, it's just going to fall out. It's not going to go up in the engine. This is going to spray right into the cylinder, or right next to it. So yeah, you can damage an engine really, really fast. And I've seen it happen. All right, benefits. We got that. 2, basic design. Basic design. Let's see. So uses continuous flow. Continuous flow fuel nozzles located at cylinder intake. What does continuous flow mean?
It's going to be
Means fuel is always flowing. So what if it's not on the intake stroke? Still flowing. Oh, it just flows, flows, flows. We will contrast that to the different types. So what do cars have?
Intermittent flow?
Yeah, or timed injection or intermittent flow. So timed injection. So I'm saying these are the other types in contrast to what doesn't it have? Well, the systems we're talking about, they do not have timed injection. Where timed injection, like who was the first? It was Mercedes came out with the first one, right?
Yeah,
That was the E-Class, because the German word for fuel injection, something or another, would start with an E. That's where they got the E-Class. And then Porsche, right? So, what's that?
Damn it.
huh? No, it wasn't. that's a dessert. It's actually a dirty word, so, but I won't tell them. Yeah, so you have a pump that had to be timed like a magneto. You're like, nope. Well, there's an engine that'll never run. I have to time the magneto and the fuel injection. I got to get the spark and the fuel, and nope. So yeah, it would inject at a certain point. And then nowadays, our cars have direct injection. I think they're doing it. I know my car had it. Well, port injection would be directing it into the intake port. But direct injection is going to spray it right into the cylinder. Right?
They also did have CIS and some of the older airplanes too.
What do they call it? CIS?
CIS, yeah, Bosch, Jetronic.
And what was, that was the timed
No, it
injection?
was continuous injection on all cylinders.
Oh, so they did have that for a while. Okay.
Mercedes, Porsche.
But I don't think that would go over well today because it's not as efficient. So it's not as efficient. So why are we using continuous flow and not using timed injection or direct? Most reliable. Well, you could argue that and say, well, I don't know. I think Rotax is using timed injection on their engines, and they're not unsafe. So what's going on with this? Well, then we can circle back around and say, then it's money. First it was safety, then it became money. So it costs too much money to develop a new system, send it out to the market with liability, STC, fees, everything else. It's just there's no money to be made, so nobody's going to do this. That's my point. All right, so let's talk about the Bendix. The Bendix RSA. RSA. If you're reading some of our textbooks and stuff, be careful that you're actually reading the RSA and not the other one. RS, I believe. Yeah, RS. It's different. I was writing notes for this class, I mean, years ago, and I'm like reading, I'm like, that's not how it works. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm reading about the old Jaime system. All right, so the Bendix RSA is one of two popular injection systems. One of two popular injection systems. One is the Bendix and the other one is the Continental system, or TCM. So this one is used on Lycoming engines. Exclusively. It is in many ways similar to pressure carb. So if you can understand the pressure carb, then you can understand this. If you can't understand the pressure carb, then this is going to be like, God dang it. It is designed to deliver fuel in relation to the volume of air being consumed. So what can we say about this statement here? Designed to deliver, what component is designed to deliver fuel in relation to the volume of air being consumed? Carburetors. What else? What kind of carburetors? Okay, what? Pressure carbs.
Stromberg.
What are those called? Float carbs. All of the carbs. Literally everything, but one. Continental fuel injection. Well, actually, no, take it back. Literally everything. It is designed to deliver fuel in relation to the volume. Yep, everything. So everything. So there are no, that I can think of, exceptions to that rule. So everything's designed to do that. Everything. So even that. Accomplished by using Venturi section and impact air. What does that sound like?
Chambers A and B.
Yep. All right, let's, instead of writing a bunch of stuff, let's just take a look at this and see how it goes. Yeah, put the pen down. All right, it's the Bendix RSA fuel injection system. We have three major components to it. You have the servo unit, the big thing. Fuel nozzles, flow divider.
Big thing, the small thing, the medium thing.
Big, small, little. All right, this is what it looks like.
Well, it's not as fun.
It's not as fun. This is fantastically fun. Let's just move this over. There we go. Oh, wait a minute. I have an idea. My other slides. There we go. We'll just use this. I knew I had some more simplistic slides in here so we can kind of walk before we run. All right, so let's get acquainted with what we got going on here. Highlighter. Let's see. I did not want that. Thanks for offering. Go here. All right, so we have air coming in. Let's let the air be this color right here. So this will be my impact air. Impact air comes in. Into what?
Impact tube.
Impact tubes. Into here, into this chamber.
Wow, this is seeming familiar.
Is it though? What's the first thing some of you might notice?
Open a pop.
Well, let's label some stuff. What would this chamber be? The first one all the way to the right.
Venturi air.
Yeah, chamber.
It's pushing it open.
They don't label them like this, but A, B, C, D.
It's pushing it open, not closed.
And now the first thing I did is, yep, I went backwards. forward, but that's just because it's drawn backwards. And then the venturi and the impact air are inverted. So they don't label it A, B, C, D, but I'm going to just so we can say, keep it easier.
Yeah, it looks like metered fuel is the one opposing this time. instead of
Yeah.
unmetered fuel.
So highlight, let's see, we got a different color here. Got this one. So venturi suction is going to come in here. Okay, so impact air causes the poppet to open. Venturi air causes it to open, and impact air causes the poppet to open. Everybody see that? What did it do on a pressure carb? Same thing. Helped it to open. Okay.
No. On a pressure carb.
Pressure carb. The more air you had in, the more the poppet opens.
Oh, I thought it was that. Oh, yeah, that's true. Never mind.
But it's drawn different. It was like on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So it was opening went this way, and the fuel went this way. This time it's back, and closing was against it. Now this time you've got a ball in there that's going to open up a port backwards. See, things are backwards, but still it's the same concept. So A plus B is what? Okay, so A plus B is air metering force. So let's take a look at fuel. So we got some fuel. Fuel comes in. What is this going to be called?
Unmetered fuel.
Unmetered fuel. Okay, so unmetered fuel goes through the fuel pump. What kind of fuel pump do we have? In the Bendix RSA system, we're going to have the diaphragm pump.
Oh, that's a diaphragm.
Yeah. Well, don't look at the drawing. It's just, that's not a diaphragm
Oh,
pump
okay. It
drawing.
looks like they have two wheels that are rotating.
It does, yeah. It's,
Oh, weird.
so, all right. So, fuel. So we have unmetered until we get to. All right, but so what does that mean C has?
Unmetered fuel.
Unmetered fuel. That's not being helpful to me. Why is it doing that? Go away.
So unmetered fuel.
Thank you. And then after that, D becomes, that's not enough of a contrast. Let me see, we need more of a contrast. There we go. Metered fuel. So metered fuel. There we go. Metered fuel comes in there. All right. So we think about how it works a little bit here. As the throttle is open, we're going to get more airflow. Airflow is going to come in and create a pressure in B that tends to
Open the poppet.
all right, more suction comes in. A sucks on the diaphragm, tends to.
Open the poppet.
All right, but we have to have an equilibrium of force right here. So we have unmetered fuel pressure, C, which tends to close the poppet, and then D, which is our metered, which tends to open it. So we could say that, let's see if we can get this right here, pen. A plus B equals air metering force. And so what's my fuel metering force going to be in this situation?
C minus C.
C minus D.
C minus D, the way I wrote it. And I just labeled it just in line. So C minus D is fuel metering force. All right, so that's what's going to happen. So we open up the throttle a little bit more. We're going to get a little more impact air. That is going to open up the poppet just a little bit more. All right, we've seen this before. There we go. Open the poppet a little bit more. Let's see. So that is going to create more air metering force. That is going to mean that we have to have more fuel metering force. We're going to say here that C remains relatively constant off the fuel pump. So when this poppet opens a little bit more, D is going to decrease in pressure
Go out.
and let more out.
So is there like a spring to kind of always keep it at a certain, or like a stepped needle? Wouldn't C serve
No.
that purpose?
C.
Because the fuel pump, even if you're running it idle, the fuel pump pressing against C, oh no, that closes it.
Yeah. Tends to close it.
But you also wouldn't have air metering force at idle too.
Right. We're going to see the same things. Okay. So there's our basic kind of design. I'll take it up a notch here. Let me see. Yes.
One more question. If you're idling, so you have no like suction,
This doesn't work at idle this way.
Right, but would the Venturi suction become positive pressure because there's nothing pulling, so air would eventually backfill into there?
Yeah, but there's a spring that holds it open. So,
Okay.
all right. I was trying to figure out what the next slide is about. So, I think it just changes everything. Yeah, impact air change. Venturi suction went down. It's the same thing. So, I don't know.
Not even, I don't think. Here's one of the diagrams.
Same one. Figures. Just another book maybe.
Same diagram of the fuel
What's that?
diaphragm. It shows a picture of the fuel diaphragm.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, there's fuel diaphragm there. I don't want that. There we go. All right. Okay, I just had to remember why my slides are there. All right, so if we take a look at the bigger picture here, let me do this. Let's see if we can't put more of this together. Oops, I don't want that one. Go down to here. There we go, so I can make this bigger. Okay, so we looked at the basic. Now let's look at it a little more advanced and how it kind of works with this drawing here. So same thing, we're going to have the servo. Servo. We're going to add our manual mixture controller, our idle valve, our flow divider, and the nozzles to it. You with me so far? Okay. So as we've already looked, we have, I was trying to use colored pens here, make it cool, but this doesn't do the colored pens for me well. All right, so airflow comes in, pressure in here, suction here, causes the poppet to open. Fuel comes through the fuel pump. All right, but now we've put our mixture control up here, our throttle valve down here, and the main metering jet right there. So let's talk about what's happening here. So fuel is going to come in this way. If the mixture control is closed, then we're in idle cutoff. Nothing gets through. But as we open this up, the way I see this here, we've got a orifice there and kind of an orifice there. Follow? So that is going to limit the amount of fuel in here and limit the fuel going this way. So if it's going to limit each one of those, then what is the pressure here going to do? Be less. So that's going to lower that. This one right here is what is going to control our idle fuel, because we can't have it limited by the main metering jet. Main metering jet's too large. So we're going to get fuel coming through here, and then it's going to be back. That will limit it right there to come into here so that we don't get a bunch of fuel headed out that way. So fuel heads, and I'll get back to this a little bit. As I mentioned before, there's a spring. I'll get to the springs later. Why is there a spring there? Idle spring. Okay, so fuel is going to come out this way, this way, up and around, into our flow divider. Then this is the worst drawing I've ever seen. I don't know what the hell that little egg thing is supposed to be. I have for years been like trying to, what are you trying to do with that? Fuel is going to come up through here. I believe that's representing comes through here, pushes up on the diaphragm. Diaphragm opens up, allows fuel to come up through here. There's V slots. We'll talk about those. Out to the fuel nozzles. The fuel nozzles are going to spray fuel out of there. Air is going to be picked up and mixed right in here, so it's fuel and air coming out of the fuel nozzles, and we'll talk all about that. So basic design right there. And we'll get into the springs a little bit. All right. Where am I at here? Okay, main components. We have the throttle valve. Throttle valve does what? regulates the amount of air going in the engine. We have the fuel servo. Which one is that? The big piece. All right, that's all I need to hear. Big piece. We have the flow divider, which is the medium piece, and the injector nozzles. How many flow dividers are there?
1,
How many injector nozzles are there?
4, 6.
4 to 6, or possibly 8. And finally, the fuel pumps. How many fuel pumps do we have?
2.
One is located
The engine.
engine, and what kind is that?
Oh, it's a diaphragm.
Diaphragm pump. And then one more, which is located
And the fuel tank.
fuel tank, which is a.
Centrifugal pump.
All right. Operation. Similar to a pressure carb, venturi and impact tubes create. What do they create? AMF. That stands for air metering force. Say adios, my friend.
No, there's a drink with like 10 different alcohols and they call it adios, motherfucker. Yeah, it's a quick way to refer to it.
All right. Fuel nozzles are designed to operate at a proper pressure. Therefore, the fuel control unit is designed to regulate pressure not volume. All right, so we can unpack that. What does that mean? Fuel nozzles designed to operate at proper pressure. Okay, fuel nozzles have a fixed orifice. They don't have a variable orifice. And the fuel nozzle at wide open throttle is the regulating orifice for the system. That regulates the maximum amount of fuel that's flowing into the engine. So everything else being wide open, that's going to be the regulator. Kind of like think of it as the main metering jet sort of becomes the fuel nozzles at wide open throttle.
The fuel nozzles become the main,
Like they act like
the place of that.
they are the regulating factor, or the smallest point is how I look at it. All right, what else? So fuel nozzle designed to operate at proper pressure. So we're looking for the system to provide pressure, which then subsequently does flow. So at any given pressure, you're going to get a given flow. Follow? If you know the pressure, you'll automatically know the flow because it's all kind of matched out. And so this whole system, I don't want to say it's dependent upon that, not as much as like the Continental system, but because of that, then we can get some known quantities. So again, if you can know the pressure, you'll know how much fuel is flowing because it's all matched out and figured out. You're not going to get a variable pressure and go, well, this is the pressure, but I don't know how many gallons per hour. You know. If you got this pressure and it's working, then that's how many gallons per hour it's designed to put out based upon the orifice size of everything. I don't know about this one. I think it's something else I got from another book that I'm like, yeah, are you sure about that? Therefore, fuel pump pressure, I have pump pressure to the FCU. What does FCU stand for? Fuel control unit inlet on each engine is critical. And by that, if you don't have enough fuel pressure, you're not going to get the fuel to flow through the nozzles. You got to have pressure to have flow. So if fuel pump pressure starts falling off, it won't work. And so what happens is you go to wide open throttle, you're letting a bunch of air in. Fuel control unit is going to give it as much fuel as it can, but if it's not enough, then what are you running? Running lean. So how do you fix that? You got to back off the throttle plate until you get the power you can get out of it. So that's all you can until you get to where you're going, hopefully, and then have it fixed. Let's see. We went over our example.
You're saying if you have a problem with this?
Yeah, an example. And if we go back to the movie, if you remember about the diaphragm pump, he did talk about that in one of the animations. It's like, well, what happens when, he said it in a different way, but the diagram and the little picture had the fuel pump dropping its fuel pressure off. And he said at a certain point, then the regulator goes to wide open, and he said it's like there's absolutely nothing going between the fuel pump then and the nozzles, because the servo just went wide open. It's like, well, I'm doing the best I can. All you get is fuel pump pressure, and that's not going to run very well that way. So fuel, got to have enough pressure going to the servo so the servo can regulate the pressure to let it out. So you got to have more in because you're going to regulate it to the right amount out. Example operation. All right, so we had, that was a drawing we looked at. So air metering force, or AMF, is what?
A plus B.
Well, since they don't label theirs, I'm not going to. Venturi plus impact. Fuel metering force.
Difference of metered versus unmetered.
Yep. So we'll say unmetered first, since that's the highest. Unmetered minus metered. Ooh, I don't think I want to do all this. Yeah, why the heck not? Might as well. All right. So 3. Is that big enough? Because I kind of messed with the size. 3. Where am I at here? Oh, let's look. Let's look at what happens at cruise to full throttle. So assume, remember when I made up some numbers for pressures and stuff? We'll do the same thing. Assume AMF equals 2. And it's got to open it. So is that 2, which way is that going?
Right.
All right, 2 to the right. So we got AMF 2 to the right. Two to the right. And that's going to be opening or closing?
Opening.
Opening. All right. AMF is 2 to the right. We could say 1 venturi and 1 impact if we like, just to keep things simple. So 1 and 1 equals 2. 2 to the right. Fuel from fuel pump. Fuel from pump passes through metering jet. Fuel from pump passes through metering jet into one chamber and direct into the other. And just to keep it rolling, see, assume fuel metering force equals 2. And we could say 5 for unmetered, and
3 for meter.
then 3 for metered. Equals 2. Actually, we'll use the little drawing. Here we go. So we had 2 plus 2, no, 1 plus 1. 1 and 1 equals 2 to the right. We had 5 here, 3 here, so that's 2 to the left. Everything is in equilibrium. Okay. Then we're going to open the throttle. So airflow increases, creating higher pressure where? Okay, AMF. So we'll say, we'll say it's 3, 1.5 and 1.5. 1.5, 1.5. So now we have how much to the right? 3. So we got to have how much on the other side? Regulator moves to the right, opening the outlet. This causes a decrease in pressure in the meter chamber and an increase in the differential pressure across. We could say this one now, the unmetered is going to be how much? 5 still, because that's what's coming off the fuel pump. And because this pin right there opened up, we're going to drain off some fuel, which is going to lower decrease the metered to 2. So that is 3 to the left. So we are in equilibrium. Rather than the writing, I'm not going to write all this down. We'll just do it this way. What happens when we close the throttle?
Lose air metering force.
Yeah, the fuel meter force is still there.
Let's see. What happens? So we close it up. Well, it just goes backwards. That's all I wrote is when we close it, it does that. What can we deduct for this? What happens if the metering jet is returned? Huh? Oh, what the hell is just thinking there? That's some good questions. What happens if the metering jet, just think about this. What happens if the metering jet is removed? I think that's removed. What happens if we remove that metering jet?
Pressure would go.
Unmetered on the entire left side.
Sorry, we take out that metering jet. I don't want a metering jet. In fact, I want to really get some fuel to my engine. So I'm a pretty smart guy. So I take out the metering jet. So I get all the fuel in there.
Yeah.
So what would happen? Would that work?
You would have more fuel, yeah.
Yeah, you run right.
So this chamber here would be 5. What would this chamber be?
Well, it would be less, wouldn't it? Because it would have an opening. Because now you'd be opening that poppet valve, and it would, or I guess it would.
Still 5 right there.
Yeah, it's still not restricted anymore.
Yeah, it's not restricted, so it's going to equal out these. And so then what happens?
You get a shit ton of
And you just have.
And so air metering force then wins, and so am I going to get more fuel?
More fuel.
Oh yeah, so it would work. Opening this up is going to flood the engine. What if it's too small?
it will
Other way around?
Yeah, it just leans it out, just like we would with a carburetor. Open it up, it's going to flood it. Close it up, it's going to lean it out. Let's see, I got that. That's fine. What happens if the impact tube got plugged?
And that would go down.
Impact tube is plugged. What happens? Air metering force does what?
Opens the
Goes-
poppet.
Air metering force goes down,
So close the poppet.
and fuel metering force would.
Remain the same.
Go up. Or, yeah.
Think it through now.
It would go down. You still have 5 psi unmetered, but your metered
But it would
fuel
go up to, like,
would then
4.
go up.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
your poppet valve is closing, so your fuel metering force would go down.
If you're not getting this, you're making it too hard. If the impact tubes became plugged, then what happens to air metering force?
Goes down.
It goes down, which tends to
Close the poppet.
close the poppet. What happens if I close the throttle valve? Then the
Air metering force.
Air meeting force goes down, which tends to
Close the poppet.
close the poppet, and I get less fuel. So if this plugs right here, I will get low air metering force, which tends to, which causes. All right, what happens if I get a plug going in from the Venturi? Then AMF goes down, and the poppet. Okay.
So what happens if there's a hole in the diaphragm?
Yeah, I don't know. Do I ask that?
Yes, master.
Okay. What happens if there's a hole in the diaphragm? All right, fine. There's a hole right here.
Oh.
Then,
You've got all kinds of problems.
what happens?
You buy a new fuel injector.
You tend to get fuel leaking out of these things. So if you get fuel leaking out of here because the pressure is a little bit higher coming through here,
Comes a pressure
forcing
car.
it through there, it becomes pressure carb. Yeah, it runs rich. It'll run rich.
Just more fuel. It's better.
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Did they
So
break
guys drill holes in their diaphragms.
Yeah.
Would it be leaking out when the engine's off?
Probably.
How much do you sell that thing?
If your pump's running off top, then.
Let's see. What happens if fuel leaks into the air chamber? I just did that. So fuel's leaking out of here. We're going to run. What else might you notice?
Fuel leaking out the car? Or about-
Fuel leaking out of the carb,
Not the car, but the throttle body.
throttle body.
Servo.
What else? What won't work?
Air metering force?
What else?
Auto cutoff won't work.
What?
Why not?
It would take, it would diesel. It would
Drop
it would-
fuel through everything.
If I have fuel coming through here, I know you'd say, well, it's going to block it off there, but this has fuel, it's leaking through here, coming up through here, out here. You pull the mixture, but you still have fuel leaking out of here. It doesn't want to shut off real well.
Wait,
Something
so that
fun.
doesn't close it?
Well, you diesel, right?
Yeah, it doesn't want to work well.
So it wouldn't, still wouldn't cut off at any point, or?
What's that?
It would just take
Wouldn't it cut off eventually?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay.
It just take longer.
Take longer. Again, this is not an exact how it looks. Let's take a look at. There we go.
Built in. Just close up.
All right, so let's look at it in a little bit better detail. There's our chambers. Thankfully, they're now backwards again. All right, so, but we have to start up here because this is where fuel comes in. So fuel comes in through a strainer. Now, this requires a whole lot of talking about right here. So we have the fuel inlet. What goes on the fuel inlet? What goes onto the fuel inlet? A hose goes on to the fuel inlet fitting.
Yeah, like that there's some more something deeper.
No. So I think that I've mentioned the thing about hoses in this class before.
Yeah.
That's how people die, just hoses. In fact, talking to somebody today about an airplane that came back in with a massive oil leak because a mechanic screwed the hose on and then went away. And so the inspector came and looked at it, and what does it look like?
Like it's all fine.
Like it's tight. Because hoses look like they're tight. What does tight look like?
Odd.
What hoses look?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If I showed you two pictures, this one is a picture of a hose that has been tightened with a torque wrench and perfectly tight, and this one is tightened by fingers only. What's the difference between the two pictures?
About a 16th or 32nd.
Yeah.
They look exactly the same. So you cannot tell a tight hose by looking at it. Yes.
Usually you can tell if it's a loose hose if they have Teflon tape on it.
So don't put Teflon tape on hoses in aviation. All right. So it's critical. People die all the time from mechanics not putting a hose on correctly. So behind this fuel inlet, there is a screen. And on this side, there is a cap. So you're a mechanic working on this, and I say, hey, you need to pull the screen out. Which side would you pick? The side that has a cap or the side that you have to take the hose off, then unscrew it and pull it out? Of course you would, but you would be dead wrong. It does not come out that way. It comes out the hard way. So when removing the strainer from this, it goes out the hard way. And the reason why is because which side of this screen is going to get the debris, the inside out or outside in? It comes from the inside out. And so if you were to open this up and pull this screen out, you would pull it and drop out all the stuff out of the middle as you drag it along, and it'll all fall down into here, and that would not have been any point of having a screen. So I tell you that to tell you it comes out the hard way. Remember that? Okay. I guess it's break time, and then we'll talk about something else later.
Even like a torque on those hose fittings, like just tight.